As we get to the close of 2025, I thought let's do a video of what's out for 2026, the things we really don't want to see anymore, and as a thyroid patient we really don't want to experience anymore, and then what are the replacements, the things we can actually do in its place. So there are 6 things that I believe that we need to ditch for 2026. And then 6 things that I think we should start doing in 2026. The first thing that I believe we should ditch in 2026 is only doing TSH testing to determine how well your thyroid is performing in your body and whether your thyroid hormones are at the right levels. Now, TSH is this little hormone between your pituitary gland and your thyroid gland. Basically, it's a hormone telling your thyroid gland whether it should be making more hormones or less thyroid hormones. And many doctors, still today, believe that the TSH marker is a sufficient marker for determining whether your thyroid hormone replacement is working, and if your thyroid hormone levels are at the right place. However, there has been a lot of, pushback is probably the wrong word, but a lot more patients who are demanding better healthcare from their practitioners, where they are saying that even if my TSH is normal, that I'm still feeling hypothyroid symptoms. And many doctors are realizing that we actually need to do a full set of thyroid hormone tests. And that would include your TSH and your T4, especially your free T4 as a starter. Then your free T3, your 2 thyroid antibody tests. It may warrant to do a reverse T3 test. And then also at least do an iron studies test, as well as a vitamin D and possible adrenal function test as well. These are the tests that I've come to learn are the basic essentials that you really need to do to understand the full thyroid function and thyroid levels and what's happening in your body. So what's out? TSH. What is in? Doing a full panel of thyroid blood tests. The second thing that I believe we should ditch in 2026 is that notion that levothyroxine, i.e. T4 medication, is the only true tried and tested hormone replacement therapy for people struggling with hypothyroidism. This is in fact not accurate, and it's not what patients always need. There are a portion of patients for whom T4 replacement works and it reduces their symptoms and they feel great. But then there are a portion of patients, and I fall into the latter group, where despite taking T4, despite doing all my blood tests, and my blood tests are all in good range, I still experienced hypothyroid symptoms. I still experienced detrimental fatigue. Even though you sleep, you wake up totally exhausted. Hair loss, weight gain, nails breaking, mood swings, feelings of depression. There's a multitude of hypothyroid symptoms that I still experienced, even though my T4 levels were at the right place. Even though I was taking, quite a high dosage of levothyroxine. And, my blood tests were normal, but I was still hypothyroid in terms of the symptoms that I was experiencing. And it was only by introducing T3 to my hormone replacement regime, and then about 2 years ago I went to T3 only medication, and that has for me been the biggest game changer in terms of really getting my hypothyroid symptoms under control, to a point where I generally have amazing days. I generally have great days. It just puts this notion that T4 is perfect for everyone is not the right notion, and it's not the right approach. It's not the best thing for thyroid patients. The best thing may be that you need some T3 medication in addition to your T4, or you may be one of those smaller subset of patients like me that will really benefit from going on T3 only medication. But you need a doctor to partner with to help you with that. And that is actually going to bring me to the next point that I think we should ditch in 2026. The next thing that I believe we should ditch in 2026 is that you leave your healthcare in the hands of your doctor, and that you do not take responsibility and accountability of your own healthcare. This is your doctor knows best, you trust your doctor. Now, if you have a fantastic thyroid doctor, then I'm really, really happy for you. But for a lot of patients, and I'm looking at just my experience in terms of my thyroid healthcare, a lot of doctors still believe in, I want to call it the old way of treating hypothyroidism, that is testing TSH and prescribing levothyroxine. And there is a new subset of doctors called functional medicine, and there's a big movement towards a more holistic approach in terms of healthcare. So it's not just sick care, but your doctor really wanting, to help you get better. And part of that, in fact, I think a big part of that is that patients must take accountability and ownership of their healthcare. That means that as a hypothyroid patient, I am reading as much as I can about hypothyroidism. I'm educating myself about how the thyroid gland works, what the roles of the hormones are in the body, how different hormones impact thyroid function, how nutrient deficiencies can actually impact how my thyroid hormones are converted and absorbed. And by doing this, and by then finding the right doctor to work with, I can have an informed discussion about my doctor, about my healthcare, about the signs and symptoms that I'm experiencing, and about what the next steps are, what are we changing, and what are we trying, or what are we ditching. And that comes from taking accountability. So a big thing I believe in 2026 as thyroid patients is taking ownership of your health. I think that is really, really important. The next thing we need to ditch in 2026 is that when your TSH and T4 are in normal range, that you are fine. I believe that success in treating hypothyroidism is not just about what does your lab results say. It's really about the quality of life that you are experiencing. So are you still experiencing hypothyroid symptoms? Yes or no? If you are still experiencing them, to what degree are you experiencing them? So, what is the impact or the severity of those symptoms that you're experiencing? And then also, how often are you experiencing those hypothyroid symptoms? So if you are experiencing hypothyroid symptoms every day, if you're waking up every single day, tired, exhausted, brain fog, you can't operate, you have zero energy, body aches and pains, and your lab tests say you are normal, and then often, and I've had a doctor tell me this as well, your labs are normal, therefore your thyroid is fine, there's nothing wrong with you. And I've had a doctor telling me that, because I'm gaining weight, it's probably because I'm eating too much and I should go see a dietitian. So talk about medical gaslighting. Obviously I did not go back to that particular doctor, but this is not a unique story to patients. The point is, what we need to ditch in 2026 is this notion that if your TSH and T4 is normal, you are fine. And in fact, there are so many nuances to thyroid healthcare that it warrants a deeper look. And again, this comes back to the previous point, where you need to take accountability and ownership of your own health, and understanding that if you're not getting a doctor who treats you well, who listens to you, who, if you are telling your doctor that you can't function, that's not a good thing. Then there are more to be done. There are more to be looked at than just TSH and T4 that's in normal ranges. You need to look at T3. You need to look at your thyroid antibodies, especially if you have Hashimoto's. You need to look at nutrient deficiencies and your adrenal function, especially cortisol. You need to look at the fact that how your glucose, that is your liver function, is operating in your body, because there are things, and all these things work together in terms of how thyroid hormones are actually converted and taken up into your cells. So there's a lot more than just TSH and T4. So if a doctor ever tells you, hey, your TSH is normal, your labs are normal, you are fine, but you are not feeling fine, that is not good enough. And we need to ditch that approach in 2026. And I do believe that we need to rather take an approach that we need to manage hypothyroidism by, and I read this, I think, in Paul Robinson's book about T3, treatment, about signs and symptoms. So start tracking things. Signs are the things that you can actually measure. So this is your weight, your blood pressure, your body temperature, your blood markers as well. Those are all, it's physical things that you can measure. And then symptoms are the things that you cannot measure. So that is, for example, your hair's falling out a lot more than usual. You are feeling totally exhausted. You have mood swings. You cannot function from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoon because you have just too much fatigue. Those are all symptoms. So you can't really measure it, but it has a big impact in terms of your quality of life. So I think that's something we definitely need to ditch in 2026, is this, your labs are normal, therefore you should be fine. Before we continue to the next one, I really want to know if any of this really resonates with you. Have you already ditched some of this in 2025? Or what do you believe we should add to this list of things that we should ditch in 2026? And as thyroid patients, as people struggling with hypothyroidism, and then even Hashimoto's. This brings me to the next and last point of what I believe we should ditch in 2026. And this is ignoring the impact of lifestyle changes on thyroid healthcare. I do believe that lifestyle changes has a really big impact in terms of your energy and your ability to function during the day, and just your overall health. And it has a big impact on your thyroid function as well, and how your hormones act in your body. So what are these lifestyle changes? The biggest one, I think, is the thing that we do every day, and this is eating. What we eat and what we drink, aka our diet, really has a huge impact on just our overall health, as well as then thyroid function. What I've been doing is focusing a lot more on whole food, plant-based foods. So I'm trying to really limit processed foods, and especially those highly processed foods. And it's not easy, but this is a commitment that I'm trying to do to myself, is to eat more vegetables, eat more fruits, eat more whole grains, and limit chocolates and those protein bars, for example. So I'm really trying to focus on eating more whole foods. With that, I also really try to increase and get my minimum protein requirement each day. So diet has a real big impact. Now, we can't talk about diet without talking about gluten and dairy. Now, for some people, gluten can be a trigger, especially if you have Hashimoto's, and that is a little bit more of a complex video that I really want to leave for next time. A lot of people find that cutting out gluten really works well for them and that they feel better, and then some people experience nothing. They still experience hypothyroid symptoms even when they cut out gluten. I think one of the bigger things that we need to be careful of is dairy. So those are, milk, cheese, yogurts. Dairy is inflammatory, and we want to focus on more anti-inflammatory foods, and those are typically more fruits and vegetables. Dairy, again, I think it's one of those things you need to test for yourself. Cut it out for a couple of weeks and then see if you actually react to that. See if you feel better when you're cutting out, and see if you feel worse when you introduce it back into your diet. One of the other lifestyle changes, I think, is sleep. Quality of sleep is really important, and there's a lot of things that impact your quality of sleep. I think one of the biggest things is our adrenal function. So if your adrenals are working well and your cortisol levels are monitored throughout the day, your body does that automatically, your sleep quality should be better. So those are some important sleep things that you should be doing, like trying to aim for 8 hours sleep every night, going to bed at the same time every night, and try and wake up automatically in the morning. So if you need to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, then work back 8 hours, and that is the time that you should be going to bed, at least to try and sleep. You know, look at your room temperature, look at what you eat. Don't drink coffee after 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I mean, I'm a big coffee fan, and I'm still struggling with that, by the way. My daughter tells me that I'm a coffee addict, and that's probably true. And then one of the biggest lifestyle factors I think that has an impact on thyroid health is stress and stress management. The impact of stress is very real, and I don't think it's something we can try and avoid, but I do think we must try and, how can I say, mitigate or limit the impact that stress has on our bodies. Now, stress is linked to cortisol. You need a certain amount of cortisol for thyroid hormones to get into your body. So if you are a low cortisol producer, so my body makes very low levels of cortisol, it's something you need to look at. And if you have too high levels of cortisol, that's also not good. You also need to look at that. So how your body manages and regulates cortisol becomes really, really important, especially in terms of thyroid function. And then the last aspect of lifestyle changes are your body's ability to remove toxins. Now, this is where we need to look at your liver. Is your liver really happy? And, you know, is it functioning like it should? And if you're struggling with hypothyroidism, it impacts liver function as well. You know, your gut is really important in terms of removing toxins, and then your skin as well. So sweat, so movement, sauna, exercise is also really important in terms of helping your body to be able to detoxify. And those are the things that we should be focusing on in 2026. So we need to ditch this idea that lifestyle, like diet, stress management, sleep, and detoxification, has zero impact on thyroid health. And I think in 2026, if you haven't done this already, is to really start investigating and understanding how lifestyle changes can really impact your health positively. So those are the things that I believe we should ditch in 2026 and what we should replace them with. Please, if you haven't made a comment yet, please do so in the comments below. I would love to hear what you have to say, what we need to ditch in 2026. And this is my video for today. And let's make 2026 a better year for thyroid healthcare, and the year that you, if you're still struggling with hypothyroid symptoms, the year that you make the changes in order to take your health back. Until next time, see you soon.